So hopefully Dan's going to cover off a few things today. He loves interactive sessions, so and even for those that are on Zoom today, if you want to ask a question, just unmute and just say, hey Dan, what about this? Because we want you guys to be part of it as much as possible as well. So, mate, take it away.
Thanks, Ainsley. I forget all the stories I told you, but I'll just tell you, my first job was a property manager. This was back in 1995, and I'll tell you my first day on the job. Actually, I think it was my second day on the job. I don't know if I've told you the story yet. But I got a list of routine inspections I had to do. And as you did back then, you got your list, and you would sort of rock up to these homes, and you would have your sort of, all your notes and your condition report ready to do the routines. And this particular door I knocked on, this little lady opened the door. Have I told you this story? No? Okay, that's good. And it's a true story. And so I've knocked on this door, she'd opened the door up, and she said that she didn't get the letter for the routine inspection. So I said, look, I'm here anyway, can I just do it? She said, okay, no worries. So I went in, and like a good, diligent property manager I was, I went around with my clipboard, and I had my condition report, and I'm ticking boxes, and I'm picking up rugs, and I'm looking, what have we got under here? You do all that stuff to make sure you're diligent. And on the way out, she said to me, she said, when I bought the property 10 years ago, she didn't say the council needed such an inspection. I went to 130 Main Road East St Albans instead of 130 Main Road East St Albans to do this routine inspection. I went to the wrong home. So that was my second day on the job. So I did a full routine inspection of this little old lady's house, and she allowed me through it. And after I did it, I was so scared of what my boss was going to do. I went back, the guy's name was Joseph Chook, that was his name, Chook, C-U-K. I said, Joe, I've done a routine inspection of a lady's house. And she said, just go and take her flowers and a box of chocolates, which I did, and it all went away. But isn't it amazing how people back then, particularly even now, will let you in their home? She thought I was from the council. There's so many great property management stories that I could tell you over the years of different property managers that I've interacted. But what I might do first up is sort of ask you guys, what is the funniest thing that's ever happened to your property management? Does anyone get any stories? Anything that sort of springs to mind? Interesting, funny things that they want to share?
Rob's got one.
Go, Rob. What do you got?
So mine's kind of like your story. I think I was here for might have been like 2 months, and I was going to do my routine inspections, and I went to the wrong property. This was like 6-7 months ago. I knocked on the door, and I was like, hi, how are you? I'm just here to do a routine inspection. And he was really friendly, and he was just like, oh, yeah, they let me know that you were coming. So he was house sitting the property. So I come in and I'm looking around, I'm taking all the photos, and he's like looking at me really weird. He was confused, but like he knew I was coming. Anyway, I just left, and then I think we got a phone call saying that, yeah, I've gone to the wrong property. So
it happens. It's crazy, isn't it? It happens. I had another one when we did one, because we used to work just near a golf course. And I remember I was doing the outgoing condition report, and I walked into this house, and it was sort of on dusk, and there's shadows moving. I was thinking, is there a movement? Shadow would move. And it sounded like it sort of had claws. There was a kangaroo in the house. There was literally a kangaroo in the house. So I'm walking, this kangaroo was walking around in the house, and they must have left the garage open, the garage door, and this kangaroo hopped in. So I had to get the RSPCA to get kicked out. Like, it's just some of the stories. I could write an endless book of these just interesting stories. We had a property manager once that went to, she was doing an inspection of some sort, and she's walked in, they do that, hello, is anyone home? No one's home. She comes in, she opens the door, anyway, there's 2 people in the bathroom doing you know what. So she went back to the office, she's gone and rung him to apologise. He said that wasn't me. Within a month they were out, they'd separated. He walked in on her having an affair on another guy. So it's just stuff like that we're coming up against all the time in our jobs. And I think these are the interesting things. On a Friday in our real estate office, because I used to own a big agency in Hobart, Friday nights, usually about 4 o'clock, we used to all get together, salespeople, property managers and admin, we should just talk about the week. And what was funny, what would bring a property manager to tears on a Monday would be laughter by a Friday. And what I later learned, us getting together on a Friday afternoon, it was like mental health. It was an opportunity for everyone to download what had happened for the week. Now, admittedly, back then we probably had too much alcohol on a Friday afternoon. I wouldn't recommend that now. But we would have a few drinks after work, and it later sort of dawned upon me how important those conversations were to just talk through what you'd been through. Talk through from a point of view of just processing it and not letting that thing live in your head. And I always find, like, time, like almost like disaster, perceived disaster, plus time equals humour if you process it well and you're able to bounce it off someone. And I think once you pass through those experiences time and time again, you learn how to sort of navigate them with kind of, almost like not just thick as skin, but almost like I say, put a bubble around yourself when you're dealing with people. You know, so if someone's sort of yelling and grouching at you, you've almost got to put an invisible bubble around yourself. And the first thing I would ask is, what's the message here for me? And it's not easy because you're hearing tone of voice, but what is the message here? What is the message? And maybe if you've got a body language that can't be controlled, I always say, use the word fascinating when someone starts grouching at you. Sometimes it's fucking fascinating, right? Fascinating, tell me more, right? And it just disarms your body language from having a reaction. I literally caught a flight yesterday and I'm sitting there and I'm in row 3. This guy rocks up, he's got this expensive designer bag and he had his laptop in. When the flight attendant comes in, she says, oh, you can't have that there, you've got to put it in the locker. Just the way she did it, was almost like she was rushed. She picks the guy's up, bag goes like this, the guy starts saying, excuse me, can you be just a little bit more gentle with my laptop? Anyway, she's overreacted. Next thing they're arguing, the pilot's going to come out, this guy nearly kicked off the aeroplane. It was just not managed well by her. And again, his tone wasn't nice either, but she could have disarmed him. She could have avoided that by just better management of one's emotions, better management. And I think that's the challenge. Like we are, if you think of property management, we are the central location of problems. We're centralised. The problems come to us. Right? That's sort of what we are. That said, one thing I try and talk to people about in property management is I say, what is the main thing of the main thing you do? Like if you're a bus driver, what's the main thing of the main thing you do? You want to answer that? What's the main thing? You get one thing right as a bus driver, what is that thing? Drive the bus, don't crash, get us there on time. Drive the bus and get us there safely. So if I go to a coffee shop, I've got a coffee before, what's the main thing of the main thing that a coffee shop does? And if they get this right, they'll be fine. Make a great cup of coffee. All these coffee shops that give you the coffee cards, they give you little stands, they try and like wooze you back into coming back and they try and do all this. Just make a great cup of coffee and we'll always come back. Is that true? So if that was me, I'd have barista lessons for my cafe. I'd make sure that when I'm meeting and greeting my patrons, I'd explain the attention to detail. Because if the rent comes in early, celebrate it with the landlord. That can be a good news call or a good news text because it's the main thing. Does that make sense? I know this is very basic, but I think sometimes we sort of go too broad around the value that we can add, certainly as a property manager. When the rent gets collected, let's celebrate it. It's a good thing. And when it doesn't, understand there's a landlord there that's waiting for that money to come in. And even they own a property, a lot of landlords are cash poor. And it's really hard on them when they've got to sort of come up with those extra funds to fill the void. So, what are your challenges? I've got some stuff on my slide deck, which is up there. We've had some challenges with tech today. Some of that's been communication. Can I ask, what do you mean by communication? What are the challenges in the constraints of communicating with our landlords and tenants, or even our tradies? What are our thoughts? Anyone?
Bad news calls.
Sorry?
Bad news calls.
So talk me through it. What do you mean bad news calls?
Or just when it's nothing that we've done, but it's just a situation that we can't control.
Yep.
And not knowing what their reaction is going to be to that news week.
Yeah, so what would be an example of that? So it's a reaction to a bad news call, just saying it out loud so the guys on Teams.
Sorry guys, we can't actually hear anyone other than you talking.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
We just give the mic. So we'll go through that one again. We'll air that out.
Just not knowing what the owner's reaction is going to be when you give them that bad news, whether it be like a $20,000 quote or if it's the tenant's leaving because it's not suitable for them anymore and it wasn't anything that like we could do, or they can find someone else, but they can't go without 1 week's worth of rent. So just those sort of calls.
Those sort of calls,
Yes.
which are difficult to have.
Yes.
Yeah. Can I just say with those sorts of calls, I think in any relationship, when I talk to people that are in construction about this as well, like building a house is really stressful, right? There are plenty of things that are going to go right and there's some things that are going to go wrong. And the more you, in your relationships, pre-frame that we're going to do everything in our power so most goes right, but sometimes things goes wrong. And if things go wrong, how would you like me to communicate those things to you? Right? And if you can get an understanding of how they like you to communicate, right? What that does is it enables you to tailor your approach. Yeah. Some will say, always ring me when, because if that was me, I'd say, can you ring me and then put it on email?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if you ring me, you're going to have to ring me before 9 or after 4 or at lunchtime between 12 and 1. They're the only times I've got available. Right? And what I think is important is that you relay your communication in the way that they've authorised you to do.
Yeah.
The other part of it is I always say, when there's a problem, tell them immediately. Do not delay it. I'm talking, but what will build a relationship is if you ring up, I've just received an email 2 minutes ago, I need to talk to you. There's some good news and then some average news here. But the good news is, yep. So it's your ability to be able to do it really quickly. Gay Waterhouse, who's a racehorse trainer, she says to me, she used to delay telling the owners when their horses broke down. She now tells them on the spot the moment they're broken down. She's learned a lot about delaying because that gets to the owner straight away. So I think there's a lot in just delivering the news straight away. Yeah? And as well as, like, I think I said to you last time, is try to avoid, with every part of your body, when a email comes in that's got a little bit of heat in it, try not to return to it with an email. There's nothing that I can teach you that's going to put that fire out. What puts it out is the fact that you pick the phone up and say, I've just received your email, I'm about to step into a meeting, but I want to attend to this straight away. Talk me through what's happened. So they basically re-say their email. I'm sorry that that's happened to you. You know, if we could avoid it, we would have. However, what I'm going to do, I've just got to step in this meeting. When I come out, I'll see if I can put some things in place to rectify. The fact that you ring them quickly, apologise on behalf of real estate or property or whatever you've got to apologise on behalf of, and then just say, you're important enough that I've called you now and I haven't just stepped in a meeting and left it to the end of the day. Because half the problem is you email at the end of the day. That's where all the heat comes from, not cashing in the moment. And I think, so if it was me and it was a repair job, I mean, people have got different issues, some can't afford it, but the other part of it is, I always say to people, you know, the good news is once you repair it, you've still got a beautiful property. You know, and a lot of the people that we see that have properties with us, they get a lot of the benefit when eventually they re-let it. You know, so even though we're spending money on it, I'm sure the tenants, when we lease it the next time around, they'll see those benefits. So it's not going to be a cost that you don't get back. I think you're going to get a return long term. It would have need to have been done anyway. Yep. So I think returning serve with a phone call, knowing how to empathise and validate what they've actually experienced, letting them know when you're going to be able to get back to them with those things. Can I just say, always telling them when you're going to call them next is a really big deal. Don't let them at the end of the phone call say, well, when am I going to hear from you? Because that's what frustrates them. What I'm doing is I'm diarising to do it this afternoon, and at 5 o'clock before I leave, I'll let you know how far I've got along the line with that thing. Right? And even if you just ring and say, look, they haven't called me back, but I've sent them a message, I've sent them a text, and I'm calling you tomorrow at 9 a.m, they'll be reasonably happy with that. Right? Not all of them, but most of them. And I think I said this to you guys last time, if you have someone that makes you feel uncomfortable, I say this, I've got 2 girls, Sage and Emerson, and I always say, if anyone makes you feel uncomfortable, so that is your internal rater doesn't feel right, you feel like you don't want to do the job, or you feel like you want to cry, or you feel upset, or you feel you've got to be able to share that with someone, and then when the whole situation de-escalates, you must find the courage inside to go back to your owner and let them know that you didn't appreciate being spoken to that way, and it did not make that thing go any faster, in fact it slowed it down, and I bet they apologise. And the fact that you've stood your ground, I'm pretty sure they won't do it again. And life is full of those experiences where we have to stand our ground. Because the moment you let them do it again and again and again, they'll just keep doing it to you. And you have to stand your ground on that stuff. And I know it's not easy for some of us. Right? Which is why sometimes you might even want to practice your words with someone. You know, before you're going to have that conversation, I always say, like, just write little dot points down. But I can tell you, if you can find that courage to have that conversation with that person, I'll guarantee you, by the end of it, you are going to say, I'm glad I had that conversation. There's a very, very slight slim chance where you're going to regret having it. More often than not, it's, I'm glad I did it. And it's those, and I say sometimes those difficult landlords or those difficult tenants really get us to think on our feet. And without us realising it, they're giving us good training. And we can get all defensive with one, oh, they're a pain in the arse, and we start talking, but at the end of the day, if you just say this, what's the message here? Could I have been a bit quicker should I really recommend to that tenant? Like, there's this, you've got to play the honesty with yourself. There's always something little that you, if you're open-minded enough, that you can take from that bit of feedback, as long as you can strip the tone of voice out, the aggressiveness and all those things. If you can somehow find that message, you'll be better at what you do. Yeah, find that moment where you can have that conversation and just defend your ground. And then at the end of the day, if it really is uncomfortable and scares you, and you've got to find time with your senior property manager, so I don't want to deal with them, and maybe they've got to go and be managed by someone else, because we don't want you uncomfortable all the time. But chances are most people go, I'm so sorry I treated you that way. And I always say, it didn't speed me up, it slowed. People do it to me. It did not speed me up, it slowed me down. I just want to let you know, when I hung up the phone to go for a walk, I was out of action for an hour. Right? And I, if I had my time again, I probably would have done that little bit thing differently, but your tone and the way you spoke to me really, really upset me. And I just need you to know that. But I want to let you know your relationship in terms of you being my landlord, I've really appreciated over the years. I love managing your property, which is why I'm making the phone call. What else about communication? Because there were other aspects of it. Is there any other sort of scenario?
Do you have stuff you want to bring up?
No. If you're comfortable, bring it up.
No, nothing. No,
And we'll
not
just
a
wait
real
for the mic.
example
Wait
or
for the mic.
anything.
Yep.
No, I don't really have anything though.
So if you could, I always say, if you could have a button and press it on the table right now, what would you want to do? A lot of the stuff came through as time management stuff. I saw that on the list, so we can talk about that if you want. But any other thoughts with this communication subject?
You put me on the spot. You were telling me about stuff yesterday. Yeah, I know, but I can't remember
Can
what
I
that
give
was.
you a little secret? What you can do with ChatGPT now? You ready for this? You don't have to wait for people like me. I'll tell you what you do.
Absolutely.
I reckon one of the best property, there's a lot of good property management trade, but Fiona Blaney I think is the best. You know Fiona Blaney? Look her up, she's a gun. She's the best by, is she not the best? She's just amazing. Fee's a good friend of mine. So what I would do, and there's 4 or 5 others that are really good. So what I would do is, if I had a scenario and I wasn't sure, I'd go ChatGPT, anyone got ChatGPT? You open it, I'd say, what would Fiona Blaney say if? Right? And it'll spit back all the answers. So you know what it does? It actually goes to all of her archives, goes to all her videos and podcasts. It's going to tell you the answer of what you've got to say. Right? I can't tell you this. I was speaking to Josh Fegan the other day. I'm like, Josh, you're digging a grave for yourself, because all of his stuff's on. All I've got to put in is what would Josh Fegan say, I'll steal his script and dialogue. It's so easy. So you can self-train yourself very easily. Don't get me wrong, you've still got to read it and feel comfortable saying it, but you can access information really quickly now, to be able to sort of somewhat know how to navigate. So it might be typing in the scenario of a landlord and you want to get them to drop their price and you're unsure. Type the scenario into ChatGPT and see what Fiona would say, or would I put my name in there? It'll come up with some answers. So you can kind of get access to this information very, very quickly. So have we got any landlords that are overpriced at the moment? No? Not a problem there? No? Everyone's a bit different? Yeah?
Yeah, but it's only in their campaign, that's all. And she is fully aware that it's overpriced. And I'd already pre-framed it when we advertised it, that we would run the campaign for a week, do the Saturday open home because that's important to her, and then we're price dropping it Monday. So she's overpriced because she overpaid for the house when she bought it. And so she thinks because it cost her over $1 million, she's going to get $800 a week rent. Market value $700. I took down some notes from what you were talking about this morning around logic price versus emotional price. So I'm going to use that on her Monday when I...
You would have tenants that have been pre-registered in the database for properties like that. So you know how we spoke today, which I'll talk to everyone about. So it's with these ones that are overpriced, right? The analogy that I use today, the sales guys like YouTube who use it, you say, I just don't want to go live with a price that might actually cost us more money in the long run. So what I mean by that is, I want to try your price off market by just sending your property to a bunch of qualified tenants that have already inspected a number of other properties above and below the price you want, which is this goes to the greed factor. I want to go above and below. And off the back of that, I'm then going to call some of them that have shown some interest, and I want to get some feedback before we go live. My analogy is I'd like to service the plane in the hangar I don't want to be at 30,000 feet and the alarm bells are going off in the cockpit and we're about to fly through a storm where the price is wrong and all of a sudden we lease it for less than what it's worth. I'd much rather get it wrong when the plane's on the ground than when we're taking off. Does that make sense? So we want to do a little bit off market first, and then I want to come back to you and let you know what price you should be. Is that a good deal? And more often than not, they'll say yes, it's a very safe way of doing it. But once again, you need pre-qualified tenants on the database to be able to do that. You don't always have to get inspections, mind you. You might say, look, I put it to a few, I rang a few, and this is what they told me. They never look at it at that price. So my advice is if we go on at this, we'll basically lease it within 7 to 14 days. And I think you've also got to say, what's the cost of not leasing it for a month? I don't know if you guys have ever done those figures. So if you don't lease it for a month, what that is equivalent to in reduction of rent if you went sooner. So you've got to understand the math of that, because a lot of landlords don't understand that. Yep. And as well, as you would know, I always say the quality of the tenant is in the quantity of people we speak to. I don't want to just put the first tenant we meet through. If we adjust it a bit, we get a bigger bandwidth of tenants and we pick a better quality one. My job is to make sure that when the home is handed back to you, it's handed back in the same, if not better order. I don't want to just pick a tenant that pays lots for your home and we haven't picked the best quality one. The quality of the tenant is in the quantity of people we meet. I don't know if you know, same with recruitment. I say if we're going to meet a good property manager, if we interview a big batch, we'll always find one diamond in that. But if we just put the first one on because we just have to and we're reacting to that, we could bring someone culture in the organisation. It's not going to work. Yep, the quality is in the quantity. So just adjusting it a bit might mean we find a better quality tenant that stays there longer, that treats your house. And the good ones do this. They ring me every now and then and they say, can I do a bit of work on the garden? Of course you can. Can I go and spend some money at the nursery and put some? Of course you can. Would it be okay with the owner if I come and just improve this? That's what the best ones do. The worst, they're digging the garden up. They're parking their cars on the front lawn. They're wrecking the skirting boards. That's the difference between a good tenant, pays on time, that cares for the property like theirs, to one that goes, oh, I'm just going to basically leave the home in worse order. You know what, I paid for the rent anyway. They're rich, they can afford it. It's the different in mentality. So I think having those conversations, can really help. But the pricing discussion for me, how I would do it, never, ever, ever. So when you're discussing the value of a rental value, never say, because they'll try and pin this on you, what do you think it's worth? If you tell them what you think it's worth, I think we'll get $1,000 a week. That becomes your opinion versus the other property manager's opinions. And when you tell them a price that's less than what they think it's worth, what does it feel like to them? I said this morning.
Yeah, she thinks that, or your analogy, that I told her her kids are ugly.
So what we said then for the people online is when you tell them a price less than what they think their property's worth, it's like you telling them their kids are ugly. You've got ugly kids, right? It's the same feeling. So for me, it's like when they say that, well, you always say when you're doing these conversations, so when we catch up, when we go and review your property, what would you like me to spend the most time talking about? And they'll say, I want to know how much my rent is. So you put that down as the agenda item. Anything else? I want to know what your fees are. Put that down. Anything else? What's it going to cost to lease down? You mean marketing? Yep, let's put that down. Anything else? When's the best time to bring it on? Okay. And so what you do is you build a little agenda, yeah, and I would personally print that out and I'd work through those agenda items with and tick it off. Because if you can get a page full of ticks, you will move forward with the management agreement. It's called an issues-led agenda where you're ticking, and that's actually, you don't have to close. You're not a salesperson, you just confirm your agenda. We're ready to move forward. Your last agenda item is next steps. Management agreement activated. So I would, with that, I would have the pricing discussion, probably around the second or third item. And I would start with this. I'd say, what I'd like us to do is to leave our landlord cap at the door and the property management cap at the door. And I'd like to put the tenant's cap on today. And I'd like to look through the lens of the tenant and the market, not what a landlord might want or not what I think it's worth. Let's look what the tenants are looking at in the market first. Make sense? Let's through the lens of the market. So let's say you think it's worth 800 a week and they want 900, right? I would start with the 7 to 750 home, a cheaper one. And one property at a time. So you can get the brochures printed from realestate.com, do you know that? Just print it out or get it up on your iPad and say, see this one here? It just leased for $750, and you pause, look at their eyes. This one is 1 bedroom less than yours, but it's in the same street. Yours has also got an extra living area, but this one's been fully renovated, so you do the plus minus plus thing. The question we need to ask ourselves is if that tenant paid $750 for this, let's assume they got more money, how much over $750 would they pay for yours? You just shut up, and what will come out is the price that they want. Essentially, we've got to get them to price their own home. We need them to reveal the price first, not us lead with the hip. I say lead with the hip and say this is what I think it's worth. Because when you do that, you run a very dangerous game of losing it. I want to ask them what they think it's worth if there was a tenant and then their figure comes out. So they say at 50, I say let's look at another one. This one went for 800, 3 bedrooms like yours. I guess the question we need to ask ourselves is the tenant paid 800 for this, then looked at yours in the same time period, how much over 800 would they pay for yours? Right, and you start having a discussion regarding price. And you end up with a bit of a range. As you can see, I think most would love to get it for 850. Probably over 900 would be stretching a little bit. Why don't we just off-market try both price brackets and then just see where it lands? To me, that if it's worth over 900, our database will tell us that. If it's 850 to 9, it'll tell us that. I think that's the safest play. Because when we go live, there's no turning around. Yeah, so getting them, look at the price is right, look at the price is right. I don't know if you know that show, they've got the game show, they've got all the prizes and you've got 2 contestants and they try and guess how much is in the higher or lower. Let's do the higher or lower thing, yeah? It's like that. You ask them to be the tenant, you ask them for an opinion on price as opposed to giving them that price. And you'll find it'll be a much safer way to have those discussions. Now that said, if you've got an existing landlord that you've got a great relationship with and they really value your opinion, sometimes you can go, you know, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think, when you've got that strong relationship. But when you don't have a relationship, it's very dangerous to start giving opinions on price because you don't know where they're at. So where do you think, how would you think a tenant would view this? And sometimes they go, 1,000 a week. And you're thinking, really? Is that the landlord coming out in you? Or is that the tenant in which the tenant would pay based on the comparable evidence? Yeah. So it's sort of like leading, they're called leading questions. So leading them like that I think is a really safe way with it. And then just landing on. And then sometimes like they might go, oh, but you must know what it's worth. Just say, look, every time a home goes on, I say, try to pick the price. I use this all the time. Trying to pick the exact figure before we go live and put it to market is like trying to predict the weather a month from now. Well, we know a general range of what the weather conditions might be a month from now, but it could be 27 degrees. But all the evidence is saying 22 to 26. It could be 20, it might be 28. We could be lucky, but we don't know what the condition is going to be a month from now. So when your property goes on the market, it's the same. We've got a general idea, but until it goes live, we don't know how many properties are going to be competing with. We don't know exactly what the conditions are going to be in terms of the number of tenants looking for homes. We don't know what the finance conditions are going to be. We don't know how many other properties around it would have just leased or might have come on to compete. We don't know these things until about 4 or 5 days out from the property going live. And then the conditions narrow down the price and what it should be. That's how it works. There's no recommended retail price when it comes to putting a rental property on the market, which is why we need to go to market. It's not like an iPhone where you go to the store and it's like $1,000 or $2,000, a set fee, right? Every home is unique. Every home. There's no home like yours on the planet in the same location, with the same property type, the same kitchen colour. It's all unique. We throw in, every time a home goes onto the market, the number of tenants looking are always going up and down. And then how much money those tenants have got to spend is changing. And then what the tenants love about your home is going to be different from tenant to tenant. It's a great issue, which is why we've got to put it through the process, the McGrath process of trying to find the best tenant to pay the highest price. A little bit of that. Big long-winded answer. Okay. Any other sort of communication areas that you think? Getting people to call you back? How do you go with that? Like inquiries and stuff? Do you guys manage inquiries? Yeah? So a little thing on inquiries, okay? You know when you get an inquiry on a property and you say you really want to call that person or get a person to call you back, always where you can. If I knew I'd never spoken to that person before, I'd always text them immediately and send them the contact card out of my phone. Why? So I might send you, what's your name?
Sienna.
Sienna. Hi Sienna, it's Dan Spencer here from McGrath. I just got your inquiry. I'm going to call you in 10 minutes if that's okay. Here's my contact card so you know it's me when I call Sienna. Why would I say that to Sienna first rather than calling her and emailing her? Why would I do that?
So they know who's going to be. So they know the number that's calling.
Spot on. But do you reckon you'd pick up a phone that has an odd number at the moment that you don't know the number? No. What do we all think it is? Someone trying to pick our pocket from you, right? What is your job? But do you know what I mean? Like, would the average person pick up the phone call of a random mobile number? Whereas if you've got your face on your contact card, it's got Property Manager McGrath all over it, there's a really big chance you've just saved time by texting your card and saying I'm going to call you in 10 minutes. Like just those little things there on repeat, you're going to save time. Over and over and over again. And then what I would do if I didn't get Sienna, I'd say it's Dan Spencer from McGrath. I just got your call 10 minutes ago. I'm wanting to help you with these details. And if I don't hear you, I've diarised to call you at 4 o'clock. I always tell them on the phone when I'm trying them next. Always. Right? And she always rings me back. So just little things like that can really speed that up. The way in which we actually reach out. And then you might email them as well. And I've found if you text, leave a message, and email them all at the same time, they always call you back, usually within half an hour, because they see your message in 3 different places. But if you do that, make sure when you're texting, you let them know you let a voicemail and an email. When you're emailing, you let them know you let a voicemail, because otherwise they go, doesn't this idiot know they've already left a message? So you've got to let them know that you left messages in other places, as you're not quite sure what's the preferred method of contact back. But I was just saying this morning to one of the agents, what I find is when I deal with really dynamic assistants from organisations, I deal with all sorts of different corporates, the best quality administrators and executive assistants, every time I ring and I want to talk to the person that they lead, they always ring me back. Always. They never email me back. And I always ask them, why are you ringing me? She said, because it saves me time. Right? And it builds the relationship. So they ring me back, not email me back, because they get to have a little quick relationship conversation, plus they save time with the email ping pong, plus it's very difficult to deliver a message of importance or a message of conflict on email. And so they do that, so they're saving time, building the relationship, and then they always send me an email as well, right? Just to sort of confirm it, to cover the tracks. As I say, there's places for email, but it starts with, leading with that phone call, just to simply save time. And even little things like, when you get emails. You guys probably got plenty of emails. You're probably sitting there going, gosh, there's a lot of emails piling up. Have a rule, by the end of the day, all emails are answered. But have this rule, every time I read it, I respond. Respond to everything the moment you read it. You might go, well, how am I going to do that? I don't have the information. You can still respond. Hi Sienna, Dan, I've just read your email. I'll be tackling that 4 o'clock tomorrow. I'll contact you then. So you don't have to have the information. But if you just responded to everything, I'll guarantee within 2 weeks, your inbox, you're gonna come in after this and you go, no one's emailed me. What's going on? It's because you've controlled back to them when you're going to get back in touch with them, as opposed to leaving it and the person on the other end of the phone or the other end of the go feeling like they're not that important.
That is the biggest piece of gold that you guys can write down. If you haven't written that down, that should be your number one thing, on top of sticking that in a diary to actually deal with it at the time you specify. Keep going down. You just got to know, do you feel important when someone messages you back really quickly when you message them? Do you feel important at that moment? You do, don't you? You email someone, oh geez, that was quick. Like but when I talk to property managers about this, they're like, but aren't they going to expect that every single time? And I'm like, maybe. But if you just did that and then controlled the deadline at which you want that thing delivered, I'd love to see what your inbox looks like 2 weeks from now. But if it keeps systematically happening, there's something in your process that's wrong. Like I try to say this to my team, everything we do is on checklists, but every now and then something doesn't get caught by the checklist. So I'm like, we need to put up, like we had a thing in WA 3 weeks ago. I go to WA, we're at the Crown, 400 people there waiting for me, and I'm looking for my workbooks. Workbooks weren't there. Where are the workbooks? The workbooks weren't there. I ring the girls, where's the workbooks? They said they'd arrived, they ticked the box. No workbooks, it's very stressful. So I'm walking around, we didn't know who,
got the workbooks on arrival. You know, anyway, I found the workbooks. They're in some storage area with the Lion King stuff. They had the Lion King going on at the moment. So my workbooks are right in the middle of all the Lion King props, and we get the workbooks, we put them out on the table. So I rang the girls that night and I go, right, it's not your fault. It's not Crown's fault. It's the checklist fault. So now what we need to do is we need to say who signed for those workbooks, checklist. Where did they put them, checklist? And I want a photo of them on the tables the morning of the conference, checklist. So we just add some checklist items, because it's going to keep happening. These hotels are big places, right? So that's how I always think, like, use the checklist. That's what it's there for. It's there to save us when we're under pressure. Yeah? There's some anomalies are picked up by the checklist, which is why, I think I mentioned to you guys, remember the thing I told you about yesterday, today and tomorrow? Did I teach you that one? You've got to do this. So checklists get about 90% of issues. If you follow checklists, you're just going to be fine. But the other things that are unpredictable get saved by what Christy, my EA, taught me this. We do every day, yesterday, today and tomorrow. And you can do this for yourself. Right? So yesterday is the morning of, so this morning before I met Brad at 7:30 a.m, 15 minutes on the phone. We quickly review what happened yesterday. I look through all the appointments. What happens as I go through things, I go, I forgot to send this. Stuff just comes out. So I write this down. You review appointments that you did yesterday. Check your emails again, that you haven't missed anything. Look at your phone for dial calls and mixed calls and text messages. I will bet every day there'll be at least half a dozen things that if you didn't review yesterday really quickly, you would have missed. There could be big issues down the track for you, where you blow time on. So that's yesterday's review. It takes about 7 to 10 minutes. Then we look at today. What's happening today? I'm meeting Brad at 7:30, catching up with Ainsley, we're setting up, we've got the slides ready, We look at the whole routine. Have I missed anything? And there's always things that I think about the morning of which just seem to come in. Oh, we need to do this. Yep. Then I quickly look at tomorrow. And the reason why we look at tomorrow is the moment I get off the phone, what did I do with you, Ainsley, yesterday? I ring him. I confirm my appointments the day before. And what I've learned is if you confirm the day before, they're less likely to cancel. I can't tell you how many people will cancel on you. If you don't confirm, well, you try and confirm it the day of. Confirm the day before. You've got to beat all the other people that don't confirm. Listen to this. Because you want to make sure that your day, you've organised. Because if they cancel on the damn day of the thing, it rucks your whole day up. Right? So, confirm the day before, but confirm assertively. Hi Kira, Dan Spencer here from McGrath. Just want to let you know I've got all that information ready. Really looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Regards, Dan. Not just checking in to see whether you're going ahead, too passive. Really looking forward. Kira, don't cancel on me. I've gone and done all this work. I'm making her feel like she has to turn up. So it's just the way you say it on text. I'm excited. I've done all this work. We're ready to go. Can't wait to see it. 4 o'clock I'll be there. Looking forward to seeing you there. Now she's looking at that going, oh, I was going to cancel. I guess I better go. Now she's gone and done all the work. Right? So little things like that. So the day before, always confirm your appointments the morning of. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And then every now and then we look a few weeks ahead because we've got to do other things, right? But I can't say how often the yesterday particularly, oh my God. It's just saved so many problems that I would have forgotten if I didn't review yesterday.
I was going to say, I feel like there's so many different like forms of communication. Sometimes it's hard to keep up. So what I started doing on my phone is like when I was like calling people back, once I'd call them back, I'd get rid of their missed call. Do you know what I mean? Because then I would like be
Well, you know what I do? It's interesting.
So like I'd call them and have these call, then I'd get rid of it, then I'd move on. Then I would move on to the next.
So go through that again because the guy.
Sorry.
That's all right.
So what I was having trouble with is that I'd have like all these different forms of communication. I'd have like WhatsApp, then I'd have like Teams, and I'd have my phone, then I'd have my emails, and I was like having problems. Like I'd spend a bit of time on this, and then because I was doing that, then something else was blowing up. So what I started to do in the afternoons, I would like go through my phone, make sure that I had called all those people back on the missed calls. So I'd like get rid of them once I'd called them back. So then my slate is clean on the phone. And then things, if it happened after hours, I'd pin my messages to my top and leave them. Like I'd say, yeah, I'll get to that tomorrow, thank you so much. And then I'd pin it and I'd leave it unread. So then when I went into my phone, I could see that's what I have to action.
Love it.
And I feel like the last few weeks that's helped a lot, so much.
Really good point. I think how you see, when you go through this yesterday, today and tomorrow, you end up with a list of tasks that you have to somewhat administer. And the way you've got to think about those tasks is if you want to be able to carry a huge workload and feel like it's not a big workload, to run big, huge to-do lists makes I think, your job too overwhelming. Whereas if I got you to think differently and I said, right, most of the things that come your way, I reckon you can nail them on the spot in under 2 minutes. I reckon you just nail them. And I reckon that gives rid of 70 or 80% of the things, and the other 20 or 30% of the time, you need to think about not running a to-do list. Because when you look at a to-do list, you look at that list and you go, how long is that going to take to fucking work through? Like, it's just overwhelming, right? Whereas if I said that to-do list, and let's say there was 15 things you need to do, with sprinkled appointments throughout your diary, designated time slots, that you've got in the diary when you're going to do those things, I bet you're not going to feel half as overwhelmed. Yeah, my 11-year-old the other day, Seiji, she was a little bit upset. I said, what's wrong with honey? She said, I've got netball training, I've got piano training, I've got homework. She had all this stuff, little 11-year-old, overwhelmed. I said, okay, let's get Daddy's whiteboard out. So we got the whiteboard out, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we plotted it all out, and I said, honey, we're going to get to all of it. How do you feel? She goes, I feel good. I said, honey, Daddy would cry too if he didn't do that, with all the stuff I've got going on. Like, you need to know that it's in your diary to take care of in that moment in time. So that's how I think. I always say, if I might either do it on the spot, or I'll say to Ainsley, knowing my rhythm, I'll get that to you by 4 o'clock tomorrow, and I diarise Ainsley, got to get that thing 4 o'clock, and I put it in my diary at 4 o'clock. Some things aren't necessarily things I need to action, but things I just need to think about. I put all my thinking things in the morning when I exercise. So this morning I went for a run around Bundy. I had about 4 or 5 things that I wrote down at 5 a.m. that I wanted to think about while I was going for a run. So I do my thinking time when I'm running. Yeah? I do all my doing stuff usually on the aeroplanes at night time or sometimes during the day depending on what work we've got going on. So I use my diary. I say what gets scheduled gets done. If it goes in the diary as an appointment, it must get done, ideally at that time. But you've got to allow some form of flexibility in your diary, and then I'd say you block your emails out. Might take you half an hour to answer, then give you 15 minutes to jump on things that are unpredictable to sideswipe. Then you might make all your landlord calls, and give yourself another 15-minute break. Then you do all your admin, that might take you 2 hours, then give yourself another 15-minute break. We have to be accessible because we're in a service-based industry, but at the same time, you've got to learn to sort of stay in rhythm of type of task. Do all your emails, break. Make all your calls, break. Do all your admin, break. And then when you leave the office, try and do all your appointments back to back. If you learn to be rhythmic, you get so much more done in the day, as opposed to running a list where you just, okay, I'm going to do an email, answer that phone call, such and such need, Sienna needs to see me, now I'm back over here talking to all that, and you're just reactive. I'm telling you, you're going to lose 4 hours a day operating that way. And if I look at the concept of the email thing I just tried to give you, if you read emails without the mindset and the intent to respond, I can tell you're already losing 200 hours a year just reading emails. So if you're going to read them, respond to the damn things. And respond to them in a manner in which you're going to get back. Control the time expectation. Yeah? As opposed to reading them, oh God, I've got to get back to that guy. Now it's on your mind all day, as opposed to, hi Dan, I've just read your email. This sounds like it's going to require a little bit to wrap my head around. I've also got to bounce information off Ainsley. I've diarised to call you at 4 o'clock tomorrow. You will hear from me on or before 4 o'clock. If that's not the right time, please let me know. I've got it in my diary. Then at 4 o'clock in your diary, you must call such and such. And then maybe in the morning you've got to go to Ainsley to ask that thing. I don't know, depending on what the thing is the way you... That is the only way you're going to be able to cope with large volume. What gets scheduled gets done. Everything in my diary is what must get done for the day. And I say to people often, is there some days where you feel you've been working all day and you've achieved nothing? You know those days? Do you know why you feel like that? Because you've done things for other people on their time. You haven't done the things you wanted to do on your time. Think about it. If you can do everything that you want on your time, including your stuff on either side of your day, your personal life, you know those days when you get home and you look at your partner or your dog or cat and you go, geez, that was a really good day. I'm tired. Shit, that was a good day. It's because you've done the things you've wanted to do. That's why. So I think life skill is knowing how to schedule things in, staying in rhythm, having some flexibility. And if you can't, let's say that thing that just comes and interrupts you, like, fuck, this is going to take 30 minutes. It's like, where have I got 30 minutes in the next 3 to 5 days? And then you basically try and block that in at that time. That's why you've got to know your rhythms about how you operate. Usually I'm going to argue probably Fridays slow down a bit for you guys. So Fridays, no, depending on, some people say yes, some people say no, but I often hear Fridays, less people are emailing you because they're all out, you know, it's almost everyone's getting ready for the weekend.
I feel like there's a lot of movings on Fridays.
So you get a lot of movings?
Yeah.
Okay, so a bit different.
Yeah. Or people wait till 10 to 5. Oh shit, I've got this maintenance thing that's...
But what's interesting about time thing, right? Time's a mindset thing, right? So I could say, if we could run a little GoPro camera on all of your heads, and we could look at the spit out of productivity, you would all be able to achieve different things at different time frames. You've all got different skills. Some are better than other things. So I reckon if some of you looked at some of you, you'd go, what the hell is she doing? I would have had that done in 10 minutes ago, right? But then other people would look at you and go, how did she do it so quick, right? So you just got to sort of look at things and go, how do I actually do that thing more efficient? What do I need to do? Like I just shared this with you. I was at a Colliers. They do commercial real estate and they do off-the-plan apartment sales. So I'm doing a time management with them course at the start of this year. One of the ladies, Megan, she runs the sales department. She said, oh Dan, just before Christmas, all of our contract ladies went on leave. So I started putting the contracts in of our buyers. And one of the fields I had to put in was, you know, when they enter a buyer into the system, they've got to put the birthday of the buyers. She said, just putting the birth dates in took me about 3 minutes per person. So I had to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, get to 24, January, February, March, April, then go 1977, 76. And so she's like, she ran it, they do 1,000 sales a year. Times 2 buyers, they're entering 2,000, think about this, 2,000 birth dates a year. She said they're losing 3 weeks a year doing this click thing, right? So she rings the IT department and says, can we just type the address in? Can you change the algorithm? Yep, they changed it, hang on as well. So I think about stuff like that we do on repeat, and you go, how can I just be more efficient? Do I build a template? It's the same thing I say every time. You know? But even meetings are interesting to me. Like we book a meeting with someone, why do they waste 30 minutes? Or an hour? It don't have to be 30 minutes. You find out from the landlord what they want to cover off, you can have them in and out of that meeting in 10 minutes if you want to with an agenda. Why does it have to be 30 minutes? Like it's the efficiency of the time. Like you'd be surprised when you're meeting someone and say, look, I'd like to chat with you, I've only got 2 minutes. And so you pre-frame what it is, you get in and out, and they'll say to you, what, you've only got 2 minutes, haven't you? And they let you go. As opposed to Waffle Fest, what's going on? Next thing you know, it's half an hour in and now you're behind in your work.
I feel like everyone kind of will get to that when they get to doing like a routine inspection.
We get them on?
Sorry.
That's right, that's okay. That's okay. We all forget, I even forget.
Just going to say, I feel like we'll all be the same in that when we go and do routine inspections when we've really only got, 10 to 15 minutes to get in and get out, and everyone, like, they come to you with all their problems, their maintenance, their this, their that. So, and I like to, when I first go in there, say, I'm just going to be really quick, I'm going to get in, I'm going to get some photos, because I need to get to my next routine inspection in the next 15 minutes. And it kind of, it gives them the thing to know.
I'm going to be out of your hair. I'm going to be out of your hair in 10 minutes.
Yes.
And then you start saying things like, look, I'm going to let you guys go now. You've seen enough of me for today.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Oh, just those things. Just put them on my email, then I'll respond a little bit later. But I'll get out of your hair.
Yes.
I've got another one. I've got some other people waiting for me around the corner. I'll let you have your house back now.
Yeah,
Thank you.
right.
Like it's the way you do it.
Yeah.
But I want to just say with this time thing, I know it's hard for you to be able to swallow, but I don't think you have busy days. I think you believe you have busy days. You have busy moments in the day. Hang on. You haven't heard what I said. You have. No, it's your mind frame. You have busy, because you got to understand mind frame. If the individual believes they're busy, I bet they make 4 mistakes writing that email. Your mind frame, your mindset, right, has a direct relationship with the reality of tasks that occurs around you. If you believe you're flat out and busy, I bet that landlord will take 30 minutes of your time up. Yeah. But if you believe you're great with your time and you're efficient with your time, and you know what, I have busy moments in the day. I don't have full busy days where it's all just full bore 100%. Then what will happen is you'll turn that landlord around in 7 minutes. So when people say to me, they often say to me, oh geez Dan, you're flat out and busy. I go, no, where'd you get that idea from? We could always do more. I don't like to convince myself I'm busy. I'd like to say things like, I need to get better with my time. There are some moments where I wasn't good enough with the time and it got out of control. I need to find a better way of managing that so it doesn't get out of control. Do I need to put that on the checklist? Right? Did I wish I didn't say that? Because that created that other Pandora's box that opened. There's always something there that if you go, how do I get better with my time? How do I make a better use of my time? When you think like that, you start seeing the world from a different paradigm. You do. You really do. And it starts with that mind frame. You have busy moments, you don't have busy days. And within those busy moments, there is a way of doing that thing more efficiently. There is a way. Look, if I said to you, let me prove this to you. The task that you do today, I'd love for you to think about how you did that task week 1 on the job. You're laughing, right? So that is in itself an example, right? You get better. You get better in the speed in which you do that thing. Now, I don't know what it is. I see a lot of property managers, and I have some that say, I can do 300 properties on my own without any support. I have some that say, I can't do any more than 100, 120. I don't know, what is that? There's an argument there. Maybe there's just no problem with those 300, but there are always problems. I don't care what price point you're in. I don't care where you are in Australia. The higher you go, the more they demand. Sometimes the lower they go, the more they demand. They're all sort of roughly about, the older properties have more, But then the newer ones, they've just got as many problems as well. Why isn't the builder doing this? It should be brand new. It shouldn't be like that. Whereas I reckon there's more forgiveness in the older properties, not the newer ones. So they've all got their own issues, but why is it? Why is it? I'd say to the sales guys, why is it that there's some people in the room making 20 sales a year and there's other people in the room that have been there half the time making 50 sales? You can't tell me it's the variables. There's something that person's doing with their time is different. It's the acceptance thing of it. So I'm sort of saying all that because it just opens the idea in your mind, is there a more efficient way of me doing this thing? Like I look at what I do. I see a lot of the people do what we do. We write probably 2-3 times the numbers, a lot of our competitors. And they've got like 17 staff. I'm like, you don't need 17 people. Like, you don't need so many people. We've got my wife and I, we've got one other, and that's all we need. And we're good, and there's only 20 days in a month I can sell, and we could probably be bigger and do more if we want to. But we're incredibly efficient. And other people have got 4 times the size of the team. Like little things like I was saying to Chris the other week, like I would come back from a work trip and I had my bag of receipts. And I'd give the receipts down. Like I'd give the receipts. And she'd go, do you know how long it takes for me to enter all these 0 receipts in? I said, no. She goes, around about a day a month to enter all the receipts in. She goes, I can get you to enter them in, I go, but that's your job. She goes, but I'll lose a day a month. So I calculated her salary and I thought, okay, show me how to do it, right? So now, I'll just wrap up in a minute, guys. And now I put my own receipts in and I save a whole day out of Christy's month by me putting my own receipts in. It literally takes me 15 seconds from the Uber, walking in to see my own receipt in. I don't need to get them to do it anymore. But I've saved them a whole bunch of time. Now I have to change my mindset around that's what I pay you for, to I might as well do it anyway. I'm on my way, I'm walking away. It's a wasted part of time. I don't mind putting my own receipts in because I can see instantly what we're spending anyway. It all comes through on the Xero account. So it's those little things which you sort of got to think about challenging your time on. Email responses, all those things that I've said today, you'd be just surprised if you try something different on repeat. Yeah? And even another little thing like, Hazy will say this, it's like, how do I explain this? When you ask someone to do something, if I ask any of you to do something, the most common response I'm going to get is your path of least resistance. So if I said, Victoria, let's say Victoria was, I don't know, conveyance or something, or just say she was a plumber. Victoria the plumber. Victoria, can you come and fix this tap? And she's the plumber's receptionist, right? Let's just say she's the one I'm framing. I need to speak to Victoria. I need to get a plumber out. Victoria's path of resistance, least path of resistance is going to be what? What's she going to say to me on the phone? I'll get him to call you, or I'll send an email when I know, or can I email you later on this afternoon? That's the path of least resistance. But a really good property manager will go, no, I need to know now. Now, the real good property manager go, when is Vic going to be off the phone? Can you get him to call me immediately? If you were to book it right now, what would you need to do on your end? If we paid more money, because this is urgent, how much would you have to pay to turn this around by 4 o'clock today? The best property managers ask the receptionist how to get that thing faster. How do they put an urgency tag on things? That's what the best do. I had a thing 2 days ago. I was at a conference for CBRE. Shannon Sheetal was there. She's an executive assistant. She was running the conference. We had the sandwiches at the start. Half the sandwiches didn't get eaten. The conference organiser was there. She says to the conference organiser, can we put the sandwiches in the fridge so they don't go off? Part of least resistance. Conference organiser goes, the fridges are full. Shannon's like, but there's another fridge in the kitchen. Can we put half of least resistance? That fridge is full. And Shannon's like, can we move some air? She got the sandwiches in the fridge, but she had to ask 3 times. That's just what life's all about. You've got to ask sometimes for things 3 times. How do you put an urgency tag on that? Can you imagine that every person you dealt with, tenant, landlord, tradie, made you their #1 priority? How easy would the world be? Anything for you first up? That's my next task. What I'm trying to say is, in your role, just don't say yes to the first offer. Ask them how they put an urgency tag on it. Let them know the ramifications if that thing's late. Get a deadline from, I always say to people, when can I expect that by? And if they say 4 o'clock, can I have it by 2? Most of the time people say yes. And I say to them, I'm diarising in my diary that you'll have it to me by 2, because I've got someone waiting, and I usually get it at 1:30. When can I expect that by? So it's just the way you manage that. And I'm not saying put ridiculous pressure, just put enough pressure so you're not number 30 on the list, you're number 3 on the list. That's the skill of what we do. I've built many houses, and tradies, as you guys would know, are fucking hard to turn up on time. But what I've learned is you confirm it the day before. You let them know the ramifications. You text them the morning off. You let them know the ramifications. They usually turn up. But you've got it. But if you just book it 5 days and expect they're going to turn up and not dial up or they put the screw piles on it, then they may cancel or may not do it too late on that afternoon. That stuffs everything up. So it's your ability to be able to do that really, really well. Be the priority. And I say, don't be someone that's easy to say no to. You don't have to be this loud, aggressive person. No, unfortunately, I'll have to decline that on behalf of my landlord. No, I have to decline that on behalf of, is there any other way? You don't have to be aggressive. So that's not going to work for us. It's not going to work for our beautiful tenants that have been there. They're actually trying to shower this up. They've got a little baby. I'm going to have to change plumbers if you can't turn this around. If this was me in that role and this was you, you'd have to agree that's not satisfactory. I'd have to decline that on behalf of my tenants. They've been there for 10 years, they've been somewhere. Speaking of which, I don't think we celebrate our tenants well enough. I really don't. I'd love an agency that if tenants have been renting to us for 5 years, we give them some award. Same for the 10-year mark, we give them some award. Why don't we do that? Think about it. I would. Anyway, just popped in my head. Brandon. So being someone's priority is a real skill set for them to make sure they're doing that thing for you. Can we get that sooner? When can I expect that by? Is there any chance you could put an urgency tag on that? If I could convince my landlord to spend more money, could you do that a bit quicker? That's probably not going to work for us. We've got 4 other tradies lined up. They've taken me 3 days to organise. Is there anyone else you could delegate that to? There's different ways that you can do it to try and speed the pace up. Do not accept the first offer. Don't. You can always get a better offer. And even if you do accept the first offer, make sure you might even ask them things like, let's say they've let you down in the past. Let's say something like, would there be any reason why you wouldn't make the appointment? And the reason why I'm asking is these poor tenants have been let down twice, and I'm not going to let them happen again. Would there be any reason that might stop you from making that appointment? Because I don't want to tell them you're going to be there and then you don't turn up. So give me an appointment that you're 100% certain you can turn up on. I'll turn up. Right. Do you mind if I text you in the morning and remind you of it as well? Little things like that, I think, that can go a long way. All right, have we had enough?
Yep.
Yep. All right. Did you want to sort of wrap up? Yep.
Yeah. So just quickly, just to say thanks everyone for just over an hour. Sales team had 3 hours this morning. You guys only had an hour, but I reckon you can still implement what we had to get through the agent's head in 3 hours. You guys can actually bring that together. So there's a couple of really big things that I think there's some great language there. I think the whole responding to that text message is pretty quick. I think the other thing that is very good is you see the phone bouncing on your phone and you're like, oh, I'll get to that later, and you kind of like wait for that phone to go. You
you've seen custom text. Hey, I'm just out doing routines this morning. You've all got PM phones. Okay, so hey, I'm just about, can I call you after lunch? Or if it's urgent, can you ring the office regards such and such? Auto text, okay? So you use the tech that we have, because a lot of agencies don't have tech, we have tech. Okay, but I think a lot of the things of what Daniel said today, I think there's some really good stuff there.
And the morning, like, if I had someone who was a waffle-festing landlord, did they just always talk to us? I'd do a video or an audio. Hi John, Dan Spencer, I just want to let you know, I just wanted to get this personal message. I'm about to go back to backing meetings, but I wanted to get this special meeting too. So if you give them a little sort of audio, they're less likely to just leave you on the phone for 30 minutes. But little things like that.
And the only thing I say, implementation, is just try something. If it doesn't work, what happens? But if it works and it changes your world, or you get all of a sudden you miraculously be able to do more, and you're less stressed and all that. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's why we spend so much time trying to work the systems. But I think, how about we give Dan a round of applause?
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks guys, bye. See you later.